Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. If you're curious why I am the one starting this off, that's because we are joined by an amazing guest, Spencer. Let the listeners know who we have on the podcast today.
Yeah, everybody, I'm super excited to bring to you one of my closest friends, probably in Argyle. I've known her for quite a while through all kind of other different business ventures. I've gotten to know her really well over the last couple of years, but today we have Nicole Christiansen with Casa Christensen. Nicole's an interior designer, and if you guys have been following us at Empower Chiropractic on Instagram, she is the one behind the amazing work of our newest like Argyle Wellness Center concept. And so I just wanted to bring Nicole on to really talk to you guys about how you can enhance your practice with interior design. So Nicole, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, we're so
Of
excited to have
course.
you. Just tell our listeners a little bit about like who you are, what you do, how you got here, all those things.
Sure. I was born in August of 1981. No, I am an interior designer by trade, and I went to school for it. So I have a degree in interior design, as well as I worked in the hospitality and commercial and now residential design spaces. So I have over about 20 years of experience. And really, I would say my niche is form and function. I really think through how people walk through spaces, which I don't think all designers do because we're so focused on aesthetics and the look of a space, which is absolutely important, and also really kind of telling your story. So it was a joy to do the work at Empower, and I'm excited to chat with y'all today.
Yeah, tell us a little about that. Like what's the difference between like form and function like in a space? Like what's the difference between that?
Yeah, so form is like the visual, the aesthetic. So the pretty things of like, oh my gosh, I love that green wall or I love that sofa or whatever, right? The visual part of it. Function is like literally how do you use it? And so, for example, like I think a white sofa is great, but I have two small children. So, am I going to put a white sofa in my house? No, because from a function standpoint, that doesn't work, right? So, it's a conflict that most designers, it's the line you have to toe because sometimes something is like, this would just make the space look so great. And that, so in my personal home, we have 100% wool rug and my husband was like, "You're crazy. This is so expensive. It's going to get dirty." And I was like, "There is nothing that will compare to the look that I want for this space." And we're getting it, you know? And so that is like the one thing that we had to like put function aside because I just wanted the form to work.
Nice. So
So,
like, yeah, go ahead, Zach.
yeah, so I think, before going deeper into that form and function, which I think is a necessity, I think for our listeners, maybe I'm the only one that ever thought this, but can you just give a brief explanation of like what it is an interior designer does? Because at least from my understanding for a long time, or what I thought was interior designer goes in, picks out the couch, picks out maybe a plant or an art piece, and then good to go.
Yeah, it is probably something you guys experience in chiropractic care that it's a loaded question. And so it kind of
Mhm.
depends on who you're asking that question to. For me, in the world that I have experienced design and my capabilities, I am an interior designer that can do space planning. I can create floor plans. So I can literally draw a space by hand, actually, and using a program called AutoCAD, but there's other programs that designers might use. And so in that, I'm literally thinking about where is the wall, where is the light fixture, where is the plumbing fixture, right? Again, that functionality, that path of travel, as well as I can come in and I can select all the hard finishes. I can select the soft goods, which would be like the couch, the side table, things of that nature. I can also project manage all of that and I can do full installation. So I'm an interior designer that can literally do it from A to B or A to Z, I should say, where there are some designers who might only want to come and do like the furnishings part of it. They don't do drawings, they don't do elevations, they don't deal with permits or cities. And then there's designers that only do like maybe certain rooms in spaces. So like a specified like kitchen and bath designer. I again will do any space in the house and kind of at any stage just because I have the both educational and lived experience of doing all of those different aspects.
Yeah, and like you had said that you've done like a lot of like residential and commercial and like hospitality kind of things. What do you feel like is the difference between designing like a residential space, like someone's home, and like someone's office, a commercial space, like where you're gonna have customers and stuff?
Yeah, it's really wear and tear. So, a home, while yes, if you have small children, a home is getting a lot of wear and tear. A commercial or a hospitality space is getting 50 times that, right? Think about the traffic that comes into your office on a day-to-day basis versus how many guests are coming into your home on a day-to-day basis, right? It's a
Yeah.
dramatic difference. So, knowing what finishes to specify for those different spaces is really what's crucial, because a residential piece is just not typically going to be built to withstand the longevity and the issues that a commercial space will have. As a designer, when you're specifying things, it will often say, is this rated for commercial? Is this rated for in residential? And so knowing to look for those when it's appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, uh, in my first office, my very, very first office, the little blue office that you've seen, I had literally just like, oh, I think I like this and I think I like that. And it was kind of like all just kind of thrown together. And I'm sure whenever we first met, you were like, this is the most disgusting office I've ever seen, which we had met like when you were doing your whole thing like under beauty counter before I actually even knew that you were an interior designer. And now like you've done our third office. And for those of you guys who like haven't used a designer, like the experience is just worlds different than if you try to do it yourself. Like the end product is just so much better. Like it's just
No, my
like we were trying to crack backs, not to buy couches and to pick out paint colors. But yeah, like and to just go to your testament of form versus function, really thinking about like how people are going to come into your space. Like for those of you guys who don't know, like we just had our big grand opening and we fit 400 people into this office that Nicole had designed without moving a single piece of furniture. So like we didn't have to like break down the space at all and it fit we had 400 people come through it very comfortably. So it was pretty sweet.
I get it as a business owner myself. Every time there's an expense, a little bit of my soul dies because I'm trying to be profitable. And I'm like, I don't want to spend money on that. And so if I kind of put myself in your listener's position, that of a student or someone, first starting their business, when I think about my space, hiring a designer is like the last thing that I want to spend money on. But I think I wish we had like images of all three of your spaces and we could like kind of do like um, the story of like each space and how it worked and how it didn't work and who you hired and didn't hire for each of those spaces. And not only how you feel in the space, but how your clients are feeling in the space. And that you don't have to spend a ton of money. And I think that was another real win on Spencer's project for the third space is you actually gave me a really nice budget and we came way under that because I was able to utilize a lot of existing things, but I used them in a better way that worked more functionally. And then the things that didn't work, like washable rugs. If any of you are out there starting a business and you're thinking to myself, I will buy a washable rug, then that will help this, all these people coming in and out of my office. Do not do it. They
Yeah.
don't hold up over time. They don't look as good online as they do in your home. And do you have a washing machine that can wash a 9 by 12 rug? No, you don't. So there is value as just as you as a chiropractor would make a strong argument that there's value in hiring you to help someone receive optimal performance or to get back to, a healthy life, whatever that is that you're serving in your specialty. Spending the money to hire a designer really will make your space work so much better for you. And then that experience that your clients receive, it just takes it up a notch. So it's adding, I think, to your credibility as well when someone walks into a space that feels good. Think about when you walk into any space, when you're like, oh, this kind of feels janky and cheap versus, wow, this feels really thoughtful and put together. And I love bringing my family here, whatever it is that, you're the clientele that you're servicing.
Yeah, we totally have
and
that wow factor. Like people literally open the door if it's their first time and they literally like will verbally say wow, like when they walk in, which is so cool. What do you got, Zach?
and so with that, like I DIY'd my office, so I'm very curious. Like, what are when you do go in to work with a commercial space or even a residential space, what are some of the common misconceptions or things that people are really strong or stubborn about wanting to keep that you're like, this is just like not gonna work with my expertise?
Yeah, I think, if you have spent money on something, you typically don't
Mm.
want to get rid of it, right? And so a lot of times that's people are like, I want to keep this sofa. And so I, as the designer, it's a delicate line, right? I don't want to offend someone, but I also, if you are paying me, you're paying me for my expertise and my services, right? So it really depends. I think in Spencer's case, he had said like, we want to take everything, right? They're on a limited budget, and I was like, okay. And so I took note of everything, and I think we did a great job of using a lot. There were a handful of things though that I'm like, no, we're not putting this bulletin board up that is like a weird shape. Like it doesn't work. You spent $5 on it. Like let release. Let's do some Marie Kondo if you need to let go of that thing, right? That's honestly the hardest thing is when someone is so attached to something just because they spent money on it. But it's like, okay, but you didn't hire a designer then. Now you are. So let's utilize my services to the best of my ability. And that may or may not mean getting rid of some of your existing things. Because a lot of times what happens is what people get wrong is scale.
That's my
Typically,
next question.
Typically, things are too small. I was just at a house for actually someone that I know Spencer knows, and I literally said to her, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever been in a space that actually your things are too large." And it was because they had went from a massive house and they downsized, but they brought all this furniture with them, right? So then it was too big. But typically, it's a scale issue for people, and then sometimes it's color. Your one office, Spencer, is a great example where it was like the blue office, but it was this
Yep.
really dark blue,
Hmm.
and you just didn't, it was a jarring blue. But I'm sure on the paint chip, like you saw it, or your designer that you had with that, like, oh yeah, that would look great. I'm also a certified true color expert, and so I understand undertones and that what paint actually looks like on the wall versus on a chip. And so that's also something that I think people get wrong. Like, oh, I want the yellow front door. How often do you see a colored front door and you're like, something about that just doesn't feel right? It's because they just missed it by a few shades. So I think color and scale are the things that people typically kind of miss.
Yeah, like for reference, like so we in our consult room in our other office, we had this like navy blue color and like on the palette, like so like when we pulled the color swatches, like like if you go to Home Depot or something like that, they have all the little cards that have like the colors on them and you can get the paint that color. So we had those colors and they all like worked really well together, which was beautiful. And then whenever we put it on the wall, like in the scale of the room and we painted every wall that color, when you walked in, the office felt like it was really small. Like it was like a 10 by 12 room and it had like a big window in it. And like it felt like you were in like a little pocket of a room. And so we had put this white rug to kind of like brighten up the office. But then the rug was like, when we talk about scale, the rug was too big. Like it touched each one of the walls. And so it made the room feel even smaller because like the huge white rug just ate the whole floor plan up. And literally, we in the new office, we just painted one wall. Like, I think it's like four shades lighter of like a navy blue, and the room feels massive to the point, and like the color pickouts like are so good and coordinated that like one of our patients, she just moved from Las Vegas to Argyle and she literally asked for all of our colors because they work so well together that she like painted her whole house like in these accent colors. Like her house literally has the exact same colors as our office. And then she actually just went, Nicole, and bought all of our rugs, all of our floor tiles, because she's like, the rugs just work so well with the colors. So to kind of like segue us into the next section, I think it would just be really good because, like, yeah, I think, scale, like, people don't pick out scale of furniture is pretty much equivalent to like when people are like, I'm trying to stretch my hip flexor and then they're doing a quad stretch, right? It's like they're trying to do the same thing, but they're like just off by like a little bit. Like, I mean, as chiropractors, we can really kind of attest to that. Or people are like, oh, I'm taking magnesium, but they're taking the wrong form of magnesium. Like, yes, magnesium is good, but you need magnesium citrate, not magnesium glycinate. Like all of these kind of things that we're like, oh, haha, like that's so cute. You're trying. Like with the chiropractic stuff, like Nicole, I'm sure feels like that too whenever they see these Target pieces of furniture in our offices. But Nicole, can you like take our listeners just through like what does the whole process look like so they have a really good understanding? And then like you can really talk about our space specifically, like why did you pick some of the things that you picked and kind of talk through that story.
Yeah, so I think it's imperative. And this is if you're going to try to DIY it yourself or if you are hiring a designer, You want someone to literally act like they are a person that's going to be walking or living through this space and experiencing all of the things. The very fortunate thing for Empower is that not only am I, a great designer, but I'm also a patient of theirs. And so I literally know what it's like. And I have two small children, and their practice very much focuses on family. So I knew a lot of the potential stumbling blocks. And then just because I'm friends with Spencer, I've known all three offices. Do I get an award for being with
You
you
do.
in all three offices? But that you really want to kind of sit there, and if you were kind of to think about like putting on, what are they called, like the avatar, the glasses that like put you in like an alternate reality, like
Hmm.
you want to think about, how am I going to walk through this space, both as the chiropractor, the owner, right? How am I getting from room to room? And then how is my patient getting from space to space? And how do I want them to interact and that flow, and that kind of, a term we might call is a path of travel. And so for me, when I get a space, the first thing I'm doing is I'm actually looking at it from a 2D perspective. And I'm literally thinking of like someone wandering through a space and making sure that that path of travel has both the width that I need for however many people I'm expecting are going to go through those spaces, and then that functionality of like getting from A to B to C, and that working really well. So that's like, don't even, we're not talking colors here. We're not talking anything pretty. We're just literally talking, how am I moving about my space, and where do I want there to be landing places? Where do I want there to be kind of breath and freedom, um, in that space for what it is that I do, and what the clientele that I'm serving kind of their needs. And so in Spencer's case, because his practice is heavily focused on the family, we have strollers. And I knew from their previous space they had used washable rugs, and we already knew they knew themselves that they didn't want those again in the new space. And so thinking through, what we want, an area rug, but I'm not going to buy, area rugs can get very expensive. And so I don't want to buy like an expensive rug that's going to, like, if you think about too, a lot of area rugs, if a stroller were to go over them, they could kind of start to bunch up, right? And then that becomes a tripping hazard, and then that's not easy, and then that's a barrier. And we want to remove barriers, right? We want clients to want to sign up and say yes and enjoy every experience, so that we also maintain them as clients, right?
Mm.
And so thinking through that, I knew that carpet tiles were going to be the win here, because not only do they lay flat, they stay in place, but because they're individual tiles that adhere together underneath that no one sees, if a spill happens, or there's just part of that path of travel that just gets so much wear and tear, we can remove those tiles and individually clean them. And or we actually bought back stock, so that they are just ready to take that one tile, throw that away, and put in the new tile. And so that, I think, again, is cool, because from a form standpoint, the tiles are really fun and cool. Although, is this the time to bring up that you guys second guessed my choice on that?
I did. Hey,
Or
I
do we do
did.
that at the end of the
I'll say,
podcast?
no, I'll say, listen. So, yeah, Nicole was like, hey, so to give you guys backstory and like to give you backstory on this, Zach, like I DIY'd my first space. I bought a bunch of stuff. The rug sucked. Every rug that I bought, I've either thrown away or given away because it just never works. And so, like, I hired this other designer. She was fantastic. The space was absolutely beautiful. It was gorgeous. And she made 700 square foot like work like 2,000 square feet. It was great. The function of it was not it. Like in my adjusting space, I had this huge jute rug. And so I had these
Mm.
like jute dust bunnies that like rolled around everywhere. And then we were on vinyl stick-on wood floors. So every time I would do side posture, the rug would slide and stretch, and it was really thick. So anytime mom would bring like a stroller, the stroller would catch, or it was jute, so it would shed, which jute is like that like straw stuff that's like whatever. It just get never buy jute for your office. And anytime a kid would like sit or crawl on the ground, it would look like they had like white dog hair like all over them. So I got
Mm.
rid of that and I bought a ruggable because I was like, ah, washable rug, all of this stuff. And then I had this massive ruggable, and a ruggable basically lays down like Velcroed on this other pad. And so anytime you have any friction, like so when I do side posture, when I'm like walking around on the table, it bunches up and it like catches and it sits on that lip. So then again, anytime somebody would walk, like when little kids were learning how to walk, they would trip. Or like if for our couple of like older patients, like that can't pick their feet up super high, they would like snag that on there, and I was like, oh man, they're gonna fall. So like these carpet tiles were like literally like the perfect in between because like they don't bunch up, they lay flat, you can wash them really easily. Like we had a cupcake smashed on them this week. I literally vacuumed up the cupcake, took my little Bizzle green machine, and it's literally brand new. So they pick up really easily. But like and saying like trust your designer because they have a better eye than you. Nicole like gave me this pattern. I was like, whoa, this is like really busy jungle vibes. And I was like, I don't think I like this. And Nicole was like, no, it's gonna tie everything together. It's gonna look great. And I was like, no, I think this sucks. And she was like, just trust. So
No, and you guys actually went on the website and looked at the
yes.
other two options. And I said, yes, I've seen those as well.
Yes. So we looked at the website, and the thing is that I like was like, no, I think I'm gonna go and like look. And what's great about Nicole, she was like, it's your space. You can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, I think this is what you should do. I looked through all like 10 pages of these carpet tiles, and the one that caught my eye the most was actually the one that she picked out in the same color. But it just like looked differently on the presentation than in there, and we trusted it, and we were like, this is why we're hiring her. Like I'm hiring her to trust. Like if you don't trust your designer or the people that you hire, that's basically like when people are like, I think I need to be adjusted again, like right here. Like we all know that that's like super frustrating. Like just trust my work. So anyway, keep
Yes.
keep going, Nicole. Like what's your keep about the thoughts of the space?
Yeah. So again, and what's cool is I don't know how you use the space because I only experience it from my standpoint, right? So I'm thinking of strollers, but this is kind of fascinating to hear that as you are doing adjustments, your feet are moving and the issues you are having. And so yeah, the stability of the carpet tiles are really great because you want your space to feel homey, right? We don't want these sterile, stoic spaces. And so an area rug, right, gives that softness to it. But again, how do we do that? Where you, as the chiropractor, can stand firmly and not have issues, and then you, as your patients, can walk on that easily. And so I knew the carpet tiles were going to be the key to success here. And because there's so many patterns and so many colorways, once I had kind of the general sense of this is the direction the space is going, I knew then we know where to go and what colors to pick that would work. And then, picking paint colors and all the other things. I think the other thing that really stands out about your space, too, from a functionality standpoint, is you have a lot of patients, right, that come through. Plus, you have vaulted ceilings. And so we've all been in spaces where you're like, I can't hear, it's so noisy. And then, especially, you add kids onto that mix and it can get really noisy. And so, thinking through of acoustics was important to me as well. And so the carpet tile, they're going to provide some level of that because we're most likely in a lot of commercial spaces, you're on some sort of like LVP, vinyl plank, real wood, a hard surface. It's really rare that it's carpeted. But then we're applying some sort of area rug in that instance. But that's typically not enough to help with acoustics. And I did some research and found felt tiles that we used in the kids' place. And it's kind of cool because our vibe for Empower was kind of bringing the outdoors in and kind of this whole giving life to your family through chiropractic care and what is life, nature and all of that. And so we kind of made it look like raindrops. Now, is anyone going to know that? No, but that was like my intent behind it, right? And so it helps me as I'm just thinking through that space, but those tiles absorb a certain percentage of sound. So we knew that the kid zone needed to absorb more sound. And then because the reception desk is out in the open lobby as it should be, but you could be on a call as a receptionist. You don't, that's annoying when you call an office, especially if you're a first time potential client. You want to feel like you have their attention. You don't want to hear a bunch of noise in the background. So we did these like a wood slat wall that has a thicker felt behind it. You actually can't see it, but is visually, it just looks like a really cool wood feature wall, but it actually has like, I think it's like a 45% sound absorption or something like that. So knowing kind of again your spaces, and I had even asked Caitlin, Spencer's wife and partner in the business, do you guys need acoustics anywhere else, right? Like these are the two spaces that I can think of as the designer. And that's also this thing that you want if you're hiring a designer, that there needs to be this kind of back and forth of like, these are my needs, these are the issues. And so that your designer can meet those pain points where they're at. And then obviously the fun things. So I think another thing to think about your space and a way to have fun and kind of what I like to think of like having like whimsy in a space. Where are you located? Obviously, we're coming from Texas, but if you're listening to this from Florida, that you might want to have like a more coastal vibe, right? At Empower, we have one little sign that says howdy. It's not in your face, but it just gives a nod to, hey, y'all, we're in Texas. Their bathroom will have a really cool horseshoe wallpaper feature wall that, again, it's just these moments of like surprises and delight, but they're also a nod to wherever that is. So I would encourage you, as you think about your practice, where is it that you're located and how can you bring a little bit of that in, because you want to give pride to your town or your state. And also, if there's anything personal, people love stories. And so, like, I think about this dermatology office that I'm working on right now. I went into the 3 patient rooms and I noticed one of them had a picture of a dog. And I also happened to know this dermatologist. And I said, "Is that Arvid?" And he's like, "Yeah, it is." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool that you have your dog." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, every patient that comes in here talks about this picture." And I said to the dermatologist, my friend, "Okay, in every patient room, we're going to have a picture of one of the nurses' dogs or cats, or if they don't have animals, their favorite vacation spot, because that's a talking point." And you, as chiropractors, know this probably, right? You're creating a relationship. Yes, you're adjusting their back or neck or whatever. But at the end of the day, you are trying to create, that people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And how do you do that? You create a relationship with them. And how do you have a relationship? You find common ground, right? And so, if whether that's we're going to talk about Texas and horseshoes and howdy, and I feel connected to you in that sense, or if it's a picture of your dog and, oh my gosh, I also have a dog. Oh my gosh, is that an English bulldog? I love English bulldogs, right? That adds to that layer of buy in. When that woman asked Spencer for all the paint colors in her home, the cool thing about that is not only like, wow, that's awesome, but now she's hosting a dinner party a month down the road and people come to her house. Is she telling them that she's getting adjustments by Empower Chiropractic? Most likely not. But she might say, if someone says, "Oh my gosh, I love these colors. I love this area rug. Oh my gosh, I got those at my chiropractor's office." That's a story. Now they've planted the seed. Chiropractic care? Where do you guys go to chiropractic care, right? Like, you don't even know like the ripple effect that these stories can have. And this all came from a designer picking out a carpet tile that actually they didn't want, in the beginning. So there's just so much power in the storytelling aspect and really understanding that form and function. And so as you think about your space or you work with a designer, which yes, I work virtually, for any of you that are listening, but that all of that is what creates a great space.
You have anything
That's, I
else, Zach?
mean, no, I mean, I think that's amazing. Especially, I mean, we had a mentor on, Austin Cohen, and he's big on, chiropractors and doctors in general want to have their diplomas up in the exam room, to really showcase. And he's like, take the diplomas down, like share a story.
Yeah. He says
And
put a
so I think
dad
it's
joke.
yeah. So I think it's great that you mentioned telling the story through pictures of your dogs or whatever that might be. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, as we wrap up, Nicole, like for our friends like who maybe are not ready to take the leap and are gonna say like, "Hey, I'm gonna DIY this myself," right? If I was gonna DIY a space, can you give me like a crash course on are there like proportions to scale? That's like a good rule of thumb to follow. Like I know like in design there's like a proportion like for your shelves, like the sometimes people use it like the short, medium, tall like rule of three. Like that's like one that like I try to follow like about shelves in my house and stuff. Like not everything is the same height. Like you have your gallery wall and you have behind you, those kind of things. And like a color crash course, like just a general color crash course, something easy, like if I'm new to
I
design.
think, yeah, that's a lot. You're basically saying, Nicole, how could I adjust myself if I didn't want to go to a chiropractor,
Sure.
right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a hard one. But I guess the thing that I would think about, or where people can kind of get things wrong, is less is more. So don't get too creative. Again, really kind of think about what is the experience that I myself want to have when I'm coming into this space every day, day after day, and the experience that I want my clients to have. And so come up with those handful of words and kind of narrow those down to like 3 to 5 things, and let that really be your guiding light and stay true to that. And then like repeat things. So, like, if we think about those carpet tiles, the lobby is one pattern and the adjustment room is another. but they both have green in them, right?
Yep.
So I've repeated that green, and then we have actual live plants that is green, right? So I'm repeating colors throughout the space. The reception desk is painted green. So repeat those colors. Don't feel like this is the blue room and then no other blue is in the space. No, we want to kind of like trickle these colors throughout the space and then narrow that palette. So we don't want a circus, most likely, in our spaces. So when you are kind of thinking of, okay, I want kind of a earthy vibe. Okay, that's gonna be greens and browns, right? Maybe some blue. If I'm thinking coastal, that's gonna be blues and whites, maybe a little like peachy. So kind of that in that sense, narrow that down, and then how can I bring an element of that in each of the spaces that I'm doing?
Yeah, my favorite part about like our adjusting off a room and our living room that we have set up is that like the couches and our tables are like very much the same like texture and color. And so like the rooms feel like extensions because we do like the open adjusting, but there's just something very distinct about the adjusting space that's different than the living room, but they feel like the same room at the same time. Like it's just that like full the experience is just very cohesive, like as you move in and out of each room, which is nice. So cool. Zach, you got any closing thoughts?
I think so. I'm definitely gonna walk into my office tomorrow and do my best not to want to change everything.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that like Nicole like has taught me like that really helped increase the amount of people that we can see is how to like invite people into the space with your furniture. Like in my first office, I had a lot of chairs like right by the front door because I was like, oh, like I want to, but that's where people like tend to congregate. So like one of the things that like Nicole has taught me is just like if you notice that there's a certain area like that people are naturally gravitating to, like where can you put that to like bring them back into the space and get them more involved and stops like a lot of traffic like piling up at your front door and like ins and outs and like those kind of things. It's been really good. So cool.
Oh,
Nicole,
thanks.
how can people like really, how can people stay connected with you? How can they see your work and how can they work with you if they're looking to hire a designer or, get some advice? And like what kind of services do you offer?
So I am at www.casachristiansen.com, which is Casa, CASA, Christensen, CHRISTENSEN.
I'll link it in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. It's a unique spelling of Christensen, so I always feel like I have to spell it. Um, and as far as services go, I really to your needs. So if you're like, I don't have a lot to invest, we can look at what does it look like for me just to come alongside and do like conceptual to maybe sending you the links and you do the install. This can be done virtually. This can obviously be done in person. So I really try to meet my clients where they're at and find that kind of package that will fit their needs.
Nice. Cool.
Awesome.
Well, Nicole, thanks so much for being on the What Now podcast. Guys, like you really just don't, if you haven't gotten your space curated and designed and you're like looking to take your practice to the next level, like I said earlier, like we literally have like when our new patients walk in the door, they literally say wow, like verbally. And you just can't beat that first impression when your space is like curated for your brand, your culture, and your services and your clients. Like it literally feels like people literally say that they feel like they're walking into their own house when they come into our office. So if that's what you're looking for, definitely hit up Nicole. And thanks so much, guys, for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. Peace.
Peace.